Good to have you back. This is the South African Morning. Now, it's been quite a bumpy 5-day ride for Comair customers following the operator's grounding. This saw scores of passengers stranded with no choice but to book with other airlines, most of which applied hefty price increases on their tickets. Now, low-cost airline FlySafair has been accused of such, with travelers taking their grips to social media. However, the airline has come out to defend its hefty price surge, and I'm now joined by FlySafair Chief Marketing Officer Kirby Gordon for more on this. Kirby, pleasure talking to you. Thank you for making time for us to talk about this and settle, what's been a banter, a chit-chat on social media, not looking good for FlySafair in terms of those hefty prices. But what was the reason for those prices? Personally, I had also tried to book a flight to Cape Town this past weekend. It cost me up to 3.3, I think, and I decided not to travel anymore because it just didn't make financial sense for me. But why the price increase from your perspective?
Thanks so much for the opportunity. Yeah, I think it's an awesome to be able to talk about these kinds of things because it is a matter that I don't think is very widely understood. The reality is that airlines trade a service on a market, and what we do is we operate across generally about 26 price points, 26 because they're 26 letters of the alphabet, and that's how the system works. But you'll find that prices will vary from, if I use a Joburg-Durban route, for example, from about 430 Rand all the way up to about 3.3, for example. And what happens is the first seats that sell on an aircraft always go at the cheapest price, and then as they fill up and as demand increases, especially in periods of high peak travel, you will see those more expensive seats selling. And that's effectively exactly what we've seen here. There was no change to any price points and no change to the number of seats actually allocated to any one of those price points. The difference is that we lost 40% of the seat capacity in the market instantly. And as a result, we sold out. I mean, we literally operated on Sunday without a single empty seat. Monday was 99.6% full, Tuesday 100%, yesterday 100%. So, we were selling our more expensive seats, which ordinarily we only hope to sell, So that's really the big difference in terms of what we've seen here.
Right, but it seems that the complaints and concerns raised on social media come from frequent flyers, mostly who say, listen, we love FlySafair, we are loyal customers, we fly for business reasons, for family, commitments, and we haven't really experienced such prices. It almost seems to me that the perception is you were taking advantage of the desperation from South Africans due to Comair obviously having their flights suspended, and thus anti-competitiveness there being sensed from FlySafair's part. Is that the case? Even though you've just explained, how pricing is, conducted in the airlines industry, but at the same time, were you taking advantage of what happened to Comair?
No, we were absolutely not taking advantage of what happened to Comair. I don't think anything changed on that front. As I said, the prices were set. When we closed our doors here at head office on Friday afternoon, the seats were set, the prices were set as to what they were meant to be for the weekend, and that's exactly how they're sold. I think the misconception does perpetuate. I mean, I think it's obvious. We've seen that across social channels and whatnot, and that's why these kinds of conversations and these kinds of opportunities to engage and have these discussions are so valuable in the long run.
Yeah. Let's talk about the calls that have been made to the Competition Commission to look into these prices. Have you received, official complaints as FlySafair? Have you received any official communication from the Competition Commission? And what's been your engagement like with both your loyal customers as well as the Competition Commission, if, of course, you've received any formal complaints?
So we have heard from the Competition Commission. They have requested that we have a meeting, which I think is going to be set up in the next couple of days, which is great. I think just to state it, it's fantastic to have an organization, and we as a competitor in this industry really appreciate the fact that there is an organization like that that is active in pursuing and taking a look at what's going on in the market. It protects us as a player as much as it protects the consumer. So it's wonderful to engage with them, and we're looking forward to that. In terms of engagements with customers, they're varied across the board. I mean, we've had numbers of people desperately phoning us, trying to get onto flights that are already full. We've been helping everyone possibly find seats wherever we can. There are obviously those that we've seen that are frustrated at the prices. I mean, realistically, to be honest, we're approaching the first long weekend of the year. Regardless of whether or not there were 40% of the capacity out of the market, prices were going to be high this weekend as it was, and probably sold out anyhow. So that is also, I think, another adding factors to the whole scenario. But for the most part, it's just really been about trying to help people find seats where we possibly can.
Yeah, and just in terms of the customer, I mean, are you saying that you've received more last-minute, ticket purchases, hence the prices have increased? Is this more on the part of the customers that they did their last-minute bookings and purchasing of tickets, hence they're seeing these price increases?
Oh, 100%. And I mean, particularly over last weekend. I mean, literally, Comair represents 40% of the domestic seat capacity. So what that meant was on Saturday morning, when the announcements was made, 4 out of every 10 people that were due to fly were suddenly without a flight and needed to try and find a seat on another carrier. And, as it was, given that it was a weekend, given there was short notice, across the rest of the industry, we were all relatively full, as was Comair already. So there were a number of people stranded with very few seats available actually at short notice at that period. So last minute bookings, without a doubt. I mean, we saw, I think, some records in terms of the number of seats that sold out on flights, just, heading as that news broke.
Yeah, and just in terms of perceptions, Kirby, I think moving forward on social media, because this conversation is still going on. I mean, I could read you a couple of tweets that we've also seen here from social media. There's one particular tweet here, Chiskop and Smile, that's their handle on social media, saying the Competition Commission must check FlySafair prices. This grounding of Comair is interesting. Rob Henson also tweeting, it should be illegal the way that at FlySafair is price gauging now that Comair have left the travellers stranded. And Mumbi, just this last one that I want to read, saying that it's time to build trust with customers FlySafair instead of taking advantage of the current situation to rip them off. So what work then lies ahead for you on social media, I suppose, where these conversations are going, and it seems there might be a bit of, brand or even reputational damage just in perception of how FlySafair works when other airlines cannot, of course, conduct their work?
Absolutely. Look, I mean, the reality is that there is loads of work to do, and there's always been loads of work to do on an education front on this basis. I mean, we always get complaints about high prices when it's close to December holidays or close to Easter holidays, as it is now, or over long weekends, because this is just the way that the process works and how the market yields. I think in the long run, what a lot of people will actually appreciate is that this is unfortunately not our first rodeo in this regard. We've been operating through periods where numbers of carriers have stopped operating and then come back again and then stopped operating again. And largely, I think what also will ultimately stay with customers, and what we will certainly be actively reminding them of, is that there has been someone that's been here the entire time that they've been able to rely on in regards to actually finding flights when they need them. The reality is that this is the model that we operate, and there's a flip side to it too, in that there often are opportunities where people, and certainly even on the flights departing today, where people have purchased tickets that are well below operating costs. Those first seats that sell are the least expensive ones out there, and there are times of the year when those are the only tickets we can sell and we make an operating loss. And there's a lot of benefit to that as well that we don't always acknowledge. That actually opens the idea of flying in the skies to many, many, many people that would not otherwise be able to afford it. So yes, there's these times when demand is high and tickets are expensive, but there are also certainly the alternative times. And as much as we get angry tweets when prices are high, I can assure you I don't get any condolence cards when a flight operates at a loss.
Before I let you go, just in the last seconds I have with you then, because we've received word that Comair will be resuming with their flights as from this morning, what should then FlySafair customers expect? Will the prices be staying the same, or will they still vary according to how you've just explained during our conversation that there is a model and algorithms that you use in terms of setting your prices?
Well, to be honest, I mean, over the next couple of days, we're sold out. So there's sort of not much going to be changing in terms of pricing, because there's not really very much available. So it's really until next week that things will change. And I mean, I've taken a look at the pricing this morning as it is, and everything seems to be pretty set and stable. And Comair's prices are very much reflective of what ours look like as well. So it should be. I mean, it's great for the market. It's very important that we have that capacity back in the market, and it's very important that we have that capacity back before this long weekend. I mean, the reality is, with 40% of people who were due to travel not being able to do so anymore, that wasn't just affecting Comair. That wasn't just making the airports a disastrous place. That was hitting the B&B in East London. That was hitting the restaurant in Cape Town. That was hitting the taxi driver, in George, who wasn't going to be getting that business this long weekend because people weren't able to get to those places. So it's wonderful that we've got them back in the skies. We wish them every bit of luck and getting an operation up and going again this morning. And it's great for consumers.
All right. Well, I appreciate you speaking to us, Kirby, and setting the record straight. Kirby Gordon from FlySafair, the Chief Marketing Officer. I appreciate your time this morning.